Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Blender Sculpting. We're going to sculpt this head. We're going to learn about facial proportions and head proportions, and we're going to learn a lot of stuff that you can apply to your own characters. So let's go. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this series of Blender Sculpting videos. This one, we are going to be working now on the full head. If you haven't done the exercises yet with the 4 facial features, the nose, ear, lips, and eyes, I highly suggest you do them now or at some point before trying to do the head. You don't want to try a head before you've tried the facial features because it will just be too overwhelming, I think. So if you've done all those and you have starting to get familiar with the facial features and sculpting in Blender, let's go. So first thing I'm going to do here is I have this model head that I made sort of as a practice and also as a guide. And it's very much, as you see, a very standard looking kind of good looking guy kind of head. Could be like a superhero or something like that. Not too cartoony at all, somewhat realistic, and sort of based on if you've seen old drawing books like Andrew Loomis or Jack Ham, this kind of stylized sort of standard male. This is the standard male. And we're going to use it to look at, first of all, some facial proportions. Before we get into the actual sculpting, we have to just ensure that we know some basic facial proportions of the head. Head proportions and facial proportions. So first of all, let's just talk about camera lenses. This is actually very important. If I go to N and I go to the View tab, you'll notice that my view here is 80 millimeters, not 50. If I put it back to 50, as you can see here, if I go close, I start to have the head distorted. And the closer it gets, the more distorted it looks. So to avoid that, I'm going to keep it at about an 80 or 85 millimeter lens, and this represents a telephoto lens for a real camera. Okay, we start off, and I just put it on orthographic view. Of course, it looks weird and flat, but that's so I can show you some proportions. I already set up this cube, as we see here. Let's go to object mode. Here's the cube. And I'm going to show you how to make one of these things because we're going to use it for measuring. And at this point, of course, it's in orthographic mode so that I can actually see for sure the exact front view. Now, if I go to perspective mode, of course, it looks strange because it's in perspective. So I'll keep it in front mode so we can kind of look at this. All right, so the first thing we see is that I have this cube which goes from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin and at the widest point of the sides of the head. Now, the widest point of the head could be the cheekbones, it could be these parts, it could be the tragus, the little part in front of your ear, somewhere around there. But the basic proportions of the head, and this is very important as I'm going to go to my tabs here, we see that the height of this head is 9, and now it's 9 meters. In real life, the average male head is somewhere between 8 and 9 inches tall. So we have, in this case, a 9 meter in vertical length, and we have about a 6.3, about a 6.5, between 6.5, between 6 and 6.5 meters wide. So it's essentially a little bit larger than 2/3 the width of the length. Now, of course, this depends on the person's head. The Hulk, for example, if I took the Hulk, and I would probably have to do something like this, because the Hulk's head is kind of a big cube. If I took someone like Ryan Gosling, I'd probably have to do something like this and make it this longer head, because he has sort of a long, elongated head. But this is sort of an average head, about 2/3 of the width as of the length. And a little bit more or less. Now, the other thing we're going to look at is, see this center line. That center line. That center line, as you see clearly, goes through about where the pupils are. And of course, that varies a little bit, but not too much. So here we have, basically, the line is the line of the pupils. That's halfway through the head. And if the eyes were up higher than this, it would look more of sort of an adult kind of guy, sort of like Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling certainly doesn't look like a boy. He looks like a man. And his eyes are a bit higher up because he has a long jaw. If we put the eyes lower, it would look more like a baby. A baby's eyes are lower than this. And you have a big head and low eyes. And so, of course, by adjusting these proportions, we have different looks. So we're going to keep with our standard look here. And the last thing I've done here, well, a couple more things, actually. If I look at the side, the head from the side profile, or from the profile, fits into essentially a square. From the tip of the nose here to the widest point, or the deepest point of the head, is about a square. It's actually the same depth as it is the height. So that's a very useful measurement. And, of course it varies, but that's the basic average size. So the same depth as it is height. And the last thing is the position of the eyes and the size of the eyes. If we look at this head, we notice that at the widest point, the head is approximately 5 eyes wide. Each of these rectangles represents the diameter or the width of an eye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in between the two eyes is an eye's width distance. So there's about an eye's distance between these two eyes. Now this is all super useful because we can kind of use this stuff to position the facial features. It's very important that the facial features are, it's not just the sculpture of the features, it's that they're positioned properly and that the proportions of the head look right. If the proportions look right, even if the details aren't great, it will look much better than a well done head with proportions that are wrong. You really need to get the proportions and placement so that it looks good. Okay, I'll get rid of this box, and there's another box which I'm going to do later once we get to the facial features, another plane which we'll use for measuring. So I'll get rid of this thing. Now I have already taken 2 renders of this head, which I personally have stuck on the side. Now, if you're going to be sculpting this head, you can, first of all, you can download this model, but it's kind of cumbersome to constantly have to look at this model. So what I've done here is I've opened up these 2 side panels. And to do that, I basically went to here, the corner here. I'll do another one just to show you. Pull that like that, that plus sign. Pull it out like that, and then I change this here. Let's say that this is on 3D viewport. I have another window here. I go up to this top part where it looks like it's a park bench, and I change it to image editor. And now I'll just open this up a little bit more. Slide this to the side a bit so we can see. In the image editor, I can go and open whatever image I want. So I can, for example, I open that, I go to my computer, and I have that image. Or I go and choose the head. Now I don't want that because I already have this head here, so I'm going to close this window, join left, and this allows me to have pictures of this head as reference. At least the front and the side are very, very, very important. All right, so now that we have this head here, I'm going to just sort of go to my front view here, and I'm going to select this and just sort of get this out of the way. Maybe I'll go GZ and just move it up there. So maybe I'll look at it later on. All right. The first part of this video is going to just be making the basic head shape. And then the second part is going to be placing the features, and the third part is going to be the details. So let's do part 1. We're going to start off, and we're going to actually bring back our cube, but I'm going to show you how to make this cube first of all. So this is what we have here, and to do this, what I'm going to do is, I'll get rid of this for a second. We're going to make a little measuring cube. I'm going to do Shift A, and I'll do a cube here, and I'm going to press N to get my sizes here. And first of all, I'm going to scale this thing up. S, scale it up to where the Z here says 9. Or I could just type in 9, but it doesn't really matter. I'm holding Shift now. I can just write 9. Okay, and now from the side, it's good. I have the right depth. And here in X, remember it's about a little bit bigger than 2/3. So 2/3 of 9 is 6. So I'd say 6.25 or 6.3, something like that. And now we have the guides for the width, the depth, and the height. Now I'm going to go into edit mode here. I'm going to go into edge mode, click on this edge here, or any of these edges, and then press Control R, and just get that. That gives us one edge loop in the middle, which we're going to use to position the eyes. And then the last thing is, click this here, Control R, and add 4 edge loops. I'll go back to my, there. 4 edge loops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, I could just go here and write 4. And this gives me 5 equal sections, which I'll use to position the eyes in later. One other thing is I'll click this here and add another edge loop. And this is going to tell us where the position of the ears is going to be. So we have this weird looking box, and it will be helpful to us. Now, how did I make this box transparent before so I could actually see what I was doing? All right, well, I went into, I'll get out of edit mode. I went into this view, the material preview, and I went into material properties here, and I clicked new. And really it doesn't matter what the color is. The important thing is this, where it says alpha. Alpha if I turn this down, will make the object invisible, but I will still see the edges. So if I turn this all the way down, I have a nice cube, but I don't have any of the edge loops I made. How do I see the actual edge loops? Because now I just really see the outline. Well, that's the last thing we have to do. Object properties here. Go down to viewport display. Object properties, viewport display, and select wireframe. And look at that. Now I have this guide that I can use for basically making my head. And I would have to use it when I'm doing these guides. I switch to material preview so I can use the fact that this is transparent.